In the heart of the bustling city, Mark strolled into Bean Harmony, a quaint cafe with a warm ambiance and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. As he stepped inside, the part-time barista, Emily, greeted him with a friendly smile. "Welcome, sir." Mark, engrossed in his phone conversation, acknowledged her with a nod. Approaching the counter, Emily inquired, "What would you like to order, sir?" Mark, finally tearing his attention away from his call, was momentarily captivated by Emily's radiant smile and sparkling eyes. A few seconds passed, leaving Emily slightly puzzled, and she repeated, "What would you like to order, sir?" Shaking off his trance, Mark replied, "One Americano, please." Emily, with a touch of playful enthusiasm, suggested, "Anything else, sir? How about trying our delicious red velvet cake?" Mark hesitated for a moment before conceding. "Okay, add that too." Emily, with a smile, calculated the total and informed him, "That will be $5, sir. Cash or card?" Mark handed her his card and she efficiently completed the transaction. "Please wait for a couple of minutes. Your order will be brought to your table," she said with a pleasant demeanour. Curious, Mark asked, "Do you serve?" Emily chuckled. "No, sir, I don't. Our waiter will bring it to your table." Content with the response, Mark found a seat strategically positioned to observe Emily at work. As he settled in, he initiated his work, occasionally stealing glances at the counter. Meanwhile, the cafe workers noticed Mark's subtle admiration for Emily. Sarah, one of the servers, whispered to her colleague, "Looks like Emily's got an admirer. He's been staring at her since he walked in." John, the barista, joined in the speculation. "Maybe he'll ask her out. Wouldn't that be exciting?" Back at the counter, Emily, engrossed in managing orders, remained oblivious to the attention she was receiving. As Mark sipped his Americano and indulged in the scrumptious red velvet cake, he couldn't help but be impressed by the delightful combination. At one point, Emily caught Mark's eye while taking another customer's order. Sensing his gaze, she looked back, and their eyes met. Mark, caught off guard, managed a sheepish smile, which Emily returned before returning to her duties. Amused by the unfolding scenario, Sarah approached Emily during a brief lull. "Hey, did you notice the guy by the window? He's been checking you out since he got here." Emily, a bit surprised, laughed it off. "Really? I hadn't noticed. Just another day at the cafe, I guess." As Mark continued his work, he found himself drawn to Emily's infectious energy and her graceful movements behind the counter. The cafe buzzed with the hum of conversation, the clinking of cups and the hiss of the espresso machine, creating a lively atmosphere. Finally, as the waiter delivered Mark's order to his table, Emily offered a friendly parting, "Enjoy your coffee and cake, sir." Mark, sincerely smiling, thanked her. The cafe continued its daily rhythm, but for Mark, Bean Harmony became more than just a place for coffee and work. It became a backdrop for a serendipitous encounter, a subtle connection that sparked in the simple exchange of glances and the recommendation of a red velvet cake. The bell above the cafe door jingled as Mark walked in, glancing around for Emily. Spotting her at their usual corner, he couldn't help but smile. Over the next few days, their meetings became a ritual. They'd chat, share stories and laugh together. Slowly, glances turned into lingering stares and an unspoken connection blossomed into something more. One day, Mark arrived at the cafe, but Emily was nowhere in sight. He ordered his usual and settled into their regular spot, deciding to wait. A passing waiter noticed his anticipation and informed him that Emily wasn't coming that day. She was sick and had gone to the hospital. Concern etched Mark's face as he asked about her condition. The waiter shared the news that she had a fever. Determined to see her, Mark requested Emily's address. The waiter hesitated, but eventually disclosed the information. Without wasting a moment, Mark left for Emily's place. Arriving at the small colony, he parked his car nearby and walked through the maze of houses. He approached a lady and inquired about Emily's residence. She pointed 3 houses down, describing it as a blue house with yellow flowers around it. Mark followed her directions and found the house. Knocking on the door, he anxiously waited. Emily opened the door with a surprised look on her face. Mark explained he had learned her address from colleagues and expressed concern about her health. She invited him in, apologising for the mess. The small, dimly lit one-bedroom apartment had limited sunlight filtering through. As they settled on the couch, Emily offered him water. Mark reassured her, insisting he was fine and that she should rest. He inquired about her fever, and she explained it was just a result of the changing weather. Mark then asked about her family and discovered that her parents lived in the countryside. She was in the city for both work and studies, pursuing a master's in psychology at a public university, with dreams of becoming a psychologist. Mark nodded, absorbing the information.
"That's impressive, Emily. Psychology must be fascinating."
Emily smiled, grateful for his interest. They continued their conversation, exchanging stories and dreams. Mark learned more about Emily's life, the challenges of being away from her family, and the joys of pursuing her passion. Eventually, Mark sensed it was time to leave. Emily walked him to the door, thanking him for coming. "You didn't have to," she said, appreciative of his concern. Mark replied,
"Well, I wanted to make sure you were okay. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask."
Emily nodded, and as Mark left, she closed the door behind him. After he was gone, she returned to her bed, a hint of a smile on her face. The encounter had left her with a warmth she hadn't expected. Days turned into weeks, and Mark continued to visit the cafe. His connection with Emily deepened, and their friendship evolved into a budding romance. They explored the city together, sharing laughter and creating memories. Emily's small apartment became a frequent destination for movie nights and quiet dinners. One evening, as they sat on her couch, Mark looked at Emily with a twinkle in his eyes.
Emily, I'm really glad I found you at that cafe. You've added so much joy into my life."
Emily blushed, feeling a rush of emotions. "I'm glad I met you too, Mark." From chance encounters at a cafe to comforting each other during sickness, Mark and Emily's journey was a testament to the beauty of simplicity. Love, they discovered, could find its way into the ordinary moments of life. As time passed, Mark and Emily faced challenges together, celebrating victories and supporting each other through hardships. Their connection deepened, and the initial spark at the cafe grew into a flame that illuminated their lives. One day, as they walked hand in hand through the same neighbourhood where Emily's blue house stood, Mark looked at her and said,
"Do you remember that day when I came to check on you? Feels like a lifetime ago."
Emily smiled. "Yes, and little did I know that it would lead to all of this." Their love story, born out of concern and care, had transformed into something beautiful and enduring. The simple act of checking on someone in their time of need had set the foundation for a love that would withstand the tests of time. Mark and Emily's journey continued, filled with love, laughter, and the joy of discovering life together. And as they looked ahead, hand in hand, they knew that their story was a reminder that sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected places, making even the simplest moments extraordinary. Mark's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, began to suspect that their son might have developed feelings for a special someone. They observed his subtle smiles and noticed his frequent visits to a particular cafe. Determined to uncover the mystery, they decided to ask Mark directly. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Mr. Anderson turned to his son.
"Mark, we've been noticing a change in your behaviour lately. Is there someone special in your life?"
Mark, caught off guard, smiled and replied,
"Yes, Dad. There is someone, but I'm not ready to share details just yet. I promise I'll let you know soon."
Mark's mother, however, couldn't wait. Driven by curiosity and a mother's intuition, she decided to take matters into her own hands. She discreetly gathered information about the girl in question, employing various subtle tactics like scanning Mark's social media and listening in on his phone conversations. Soon enough, she discovered that the mystery girl was Emily, who worked at a local cafe. Armed with this knowledge, Mrs. Anderson decided to meet Emily in person. She found herself at the cafe where Emily worked and, with a sense of nervous excitement, approached her. Spotting Emily, Mark's mother introduces herself.
"Hello, Emily. I'm Mrs. Anderson," she said coldly.
Emily, surprised but respectful, greeted her. Mark's mother asked if they could sit together for a moment. As they settled at a table, Mark's mother got straight to the point.
"I've heard that you and my son, Mark, have a special connection," Mark's mother said, a twinkle of curiosity in her eyes.
Emily, maintaining her composure, confirmed. "Yes, we do have a connection, ma'am." Curiosity taking the lead, Mark's mother leaned forward and asked,
"What is it about you that he likes? What makes you special to him?"
Emily, sincere and composed, responded, "I think it's just the way we understand each other, share laughs and support each other, ma'am. There's a genuine connection." The air in the room grew tense as Mrs. Anderson dismissed Emily's sincerity with a casual remark.
"Oh, really? That's what you think? I believe it's just his hormones jumping around. Don't take him too seriously," she said, her tone dismissive.
Emily, taken aback and hurt by the comment, mustered the courage to ask Mark's mother, "Why would you say that, ma'am?" Without holding back, Mark's mother replied,
"I know my son very well. He's never stuck with a girl for too long. If he's sticking around with you, it's a danger sign for us."
Feeling the weight of judgment, Emily tried to defend herself. "But, ma'am, we care about each other. It's not just some passing thing," she pleaded. Mark's mother, however, remained unconvinced, her scepticism apparent.
"You're a poor girl with no background. How can you possibly think you're suitable for my son?" she remarked, her words biting.
Emily, feeling the sting of Mark's mother's words, spoke up. "Ma'am, I understand your concerns, but I care for Mark genuinely. It's not about money or background. We connect on a deeper level." Mrs. Anderson, unmoved, continued with a harsh judgment.
"Poor girls like you often try to latch onto someone with a stable background. You're just trying to get money from my son."
Emily, her hurt turning into frustration, retorted, "Ma'am, that is not fair. I'm not after Mark's money. We have something real, and I won't let you belittle our relationship." Mark's mother, however, remained obstinate, scoffing at Emily's protests.
"Really? Don't make me laugh. You're untidy, you're dirty, and you're not the right fit for our family."
Feeling the injustice of the situation, Emily fought back tears and responded firmly. "Ma'am, you're crossing the line. I won't let you judge me based on my background or appearance. Mark and I love each other, and that's what matters." Mrs. Anderson, fueled by her preconceived notions, continued to berate Emily.
"Love? Do you think that's enough? You're nothing but a distraction for my son. He deserves better."
Emily, her emotions raw, shot back. "Ma'am, love is everything.
I won't let you undermine our relationship. If Mark and I are happy together, that's what matters. The argument escalated as Mark's mother questioned Emily's intentions and character. Emily, determined to stand her ground, defended her love for Mark, emphasizing the importance of understanding and connection over materialistic concerns. As the heated exchange reached its peak, the future of Mark and Emily's relationship hung in the balance, their love tested by the harsh words and judgments that surrounded them. The cafe atmosphere hung heavy with the remnants of the argument as Mark's mother left, leaving Emily behind emotionally battered. She watched Mrs. Anderson exit the cafe and couldn't shake off the sting of the harsh words. Emily took a deep breath, wiping away the tears that escaped her eyes. The customers continued sipping their coffee, oblivious to the emotional turmoil that had unfolded. Back at home, Mark sensed something was amiss. He noticed the tension in the air as his mother returned, her face revealing the remnants of a recent encounter.
"Well, where did you go, Mum?" he inquired, concern etched across his face.
Mark's mother avoided eye contact, a hint of guilt in her expression. "Just met someone," she replied vaguely, avoiding Mark's probing gaze. Sensing her reluctance, Mark pressed further. "Who did you meet?" She hesitated but didn't answer. Mark, piecing the puzzle together, realised that she must have gone to the cafe to confront Emily. He grew uneasy, his thoughts racing. As he glanced at the clock, he noted that it was the time Emily usually finished her shift. Yet, there were no messages from her, indicating she was leaving. Worry crept into Mark's heart and he decided to go find Emily. He left the house without saying a word, determined to clear the air and reassure her. As he reached Emily's neighbourhood, he waited outside her house, anxiety building with each passing minute. The clock struck 11 p.m. and Mark's concern deepened. He tried calling Emily, but she didn't answer. The night grew darker and Mark couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. As the clock struck midnight, he spotted a figure approaching in the dimly lit street. Relief washed over him as he recognised Emily, but concern replaced it when he saw the state she was in. Emily stumbled slightly, her eyes red from crying, and the faint scent of alcohol lingering around her. Mark rushed towards her, his worry escalating. "Emily, what happened? Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. Emily looked up, her gaze meeting Mark's. The tears streamed down her face as she tried to compose herself. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her words slightly slurred. Mark could see the pain in her eyes and he instinctively pulled her into a comforting hug. "I'm sorry for whatever my mum said to you," Mark apologised, his voice sincere. Emily, still in his embrace, shook her head. "It's not your fault, Mark. It's just the reality. Our families are different. I'm poor and you're rich. The difference makes it hard for us to stay together." Mark felt a pang in his chest as Emily spoke. He gently pulled away, holding her at arm's length. "Emily, don't say that. Our families don't define us. We care about each other and that's what matters. I don't care about the differences in our backgrounds." Emily wiped away a tear, her expression a mix of sadness and resignation. "Mark, you're a wonderful person, but we can't ignore the reality. Your mum thinks I'm not right for you. Maybe she's right." Mark shook his head, adamant in his belief. "No, Emily. I love you, and I won't let anyone dictate who I should be with. We can work through this together." Emily managed a weak smile, appreciating Mark's sincerity. "I appreciate your love, Mark, but sometimes love isn't enough. Our worlds are too different, and your mum, she's never going to accept me." Mark cupped Emily's face in his hands, looking into her eyes. "Emily, I don't care about what my mum thinks. I care about you. Let's face this together. We can find a way to make it work.
As Mark and Emily stood on the quiet street, the weight of the situation lingered in the air. The challenges they faced seemed daunting, but in that moment they held on to each other, determined to navigate the complexities of love and family. Despite the disapproval from Mark's parents, Mark remained steadfast in his commitment to Emily. He continued to spend time with her, often at odds with his family over their relationship. The tension at home escalated as Mark's love for Emily deepened. One evening, after yet another argument with his parents, Mark decided to take Emily out for a quiet dinner. As they sat across from each other in a cosy little restaurant, the weight of the strained relationship with his family hung heavily on Mark's shoulders. Emily noticed the turmoil in Mark's eyes and reached out to him. "Mark, are you okay?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. Mark sighed, his frustration palpable.
It's just... I can't seem to make my family understand. They don't see what we have, and it's tearing us apart.
She nodded, squeezing his hand in reassurance. "I know, Mark, it's hard, but we have each other, right? That's what matters." Mark managed a weak smile, grateful for Emily's unwavering support. As the days passed, the strain on Mark's relationship with his family intensified. His parents continued to voice their disapproval, making snide remarks about Emily whenever they had the chance. Mark, torn between his love for her and his family loyalty, found himself caught in the middle. Mark's mother approached him in the living room, her disapproval evident.
"Mark, we've talked about this. That girl is not right for you. You need to end things with her before it's too late," she insisted, her tone stern. Mark, growing frustrated, shot back. "Mum, I love her. Can't you see that? Why can't you just accept it?"
His mother, unmoved, replied,
"Mark, we only want what's best for you. She's not the right fit for our family. You're making a mistake."
The argument escalated, with harsh words exchanged on both sides. Mark stormed out, the heavy door closing behind him. With each passing argument, Mark's relationship with his family deteriorated further. He found solace in Emily's company, the one person who stood by him despite the storm that raged at home. However, the strain on his emotions was palpable. One day, as Mark and Emily strolled through a park, he opened up about the turmoil he felt.
"Emily, I love you, but it hurts to see my family so against us. I feel torn, and I don't know how to make them understand."
Emily listened, her heart aching for him. "Mark, it's tough, but we can get through this together. We have our love, and that's powerful." As the weeks turned into months, the family tension reached its peak. Mark's parents issued ultimatums demanding that he chooses between them and Emily. Mark, torn and exhausted, faced an impossible decision. He tried to reason with his parents, pleading for understanding. But their hearts remained hardened. One evening, Mark and Emily sat in a park, the weight of the situation heavy on both of them. Mark's phone buzzed with a call from his mother. With a sigh, he answered, only to be met with another round of harsh words.
"Mark, this has gone too far. It's either her or us," his mother declared, her voice stern.
Mark, feeling the pressure building, snapped back.
"I can't choose, Mum. I love you, but I love Emily too. Can't you accept that?"
The line went silent, the tension palpable even through the phone. Emily, sensing Mark's distress, gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Mark, it's okay. We'll figure this out together." Mark nodded, grateful for Emily's unwavering support. As the days turned into a silent standoff between Mark and his family, the strain on his emotional well-being became evident.
He withdrew from family gatherings, and the once vibrant and lively household now echoed with the hollowness of unresolved conflicts. One day his father, seeing the toll this was taking on his son, approached him in a rare moment of vulnerability.
"Mark, we may not agree with your choices, but we love you. We just want what's best for you,"
he admitted, a hint of regret in his eyes. Tired and emotionally drained, Mark replied,
"Dad, I love you too, but Emily is a part of my life now. I can't just let her go."
His father sighed, the weight of the situation evident.
"Son, we're family. We can find a way to make things right."
However, the wounds ran deep, and he couldn't shake off the feeling of being torn between the family he grew up with and the woman he loved. The conflict reached a breaking point one evening when Mark's parents, unable to reconcile with his choices, asked him to leave the house. The air in the living room hung heavy with tension as Mark's mother uttered those words that would alter the course of their family dynamic.
"Leave this house, Mark!" she explained, her voice a mix of anger and hurt.
Mark, standing in the middle of the room, was taken aback. He hadn't expected such a vehement reaction from his mother. His father, sensing the gravity of the situation, intervened.
"Now, dear, calm down. Let's not make hasty decisions. He's our son, our blood,"
he said, trying to soothe the storm brewing in his wife's eyes. Mark's mother, however, was having none of it. She turned sharply toward her husband, her eyes ablaze with frustration.
"No, John! He needs to learn a lesson. We can't let him ruin his life like this. If we don't act now, we might lose our son forever," she declared, her words ringing through the room.
Mark, still struggling to find his voice, watched as his father attempted to mediate.
"Dear, please don't rush into this. We need to think calmly. If we react like this and take drastic actions, we might push him away even further,"
Mr. Anderson reasoned, a pleading tone in his voice. Mrs. Anderson, however, was resolute. She turned away, storming off toward her room. The door slammed shut, echoing the gravity of the situation. Mark's father sighed heavily, turning his attention back to Mark.
"Son, we need to find a way to resolve this without tearing our family apart. Can you promise to be more considerate?"
he asked, genuine concern etched across his face. Mark, feeling the weight of the situation, nodded silently.
"I'll talk to her dad. I'll figure something out,"
he mumbled, the weight of his mother's words still hanging in the air. As Mark left the room, he could sense the disapproval in his father's eyes. It was a heavy burden to bear, knowing he had caused such turmoil in their once serene household. With a deep breath, Mark dialed Emily's number. As her voice crackled through the phone, he hesitated, unsure of how to approach the situation.
"Emily, we need to talk," he finally managed to say, the words heavy on his tongue.
Emily, sensing the tension, listened intently as he explained the predicament. "Mark, I don't understand. What do you want me to do?" Emily questioned, her voice filled with confusion and concern. Mark sighed, trying to find the right words to convey the complexity of the situation.
"My mum. She's upset about us. She wants me to stay away from you for a while. I don't want to lose my family, Emily,"
he confessed, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Emily, taken aback, felt a mix of emotions flooding through her.
"What? Are you serious? You're just going to abandon me because your mum said so?"
Emily retorted, frustration evident in her voice. Mark, feeling the pressure of the situation, attempted to explain.
"No, it's not like that. I just need to give her some time and show her that I can prioritise family. I promise it won't be forever,"
Mark pleaded, hoping Emily would understand. However, her frustration only intensified.
"So what? I'm supposed to just accept that you're going to distance yourself from me because your mum doesn't approve? What
What kind of relationship is that? She shot back, her words stinging with hurt. Mark, torn between his family and his love for Emily, tried to find a middle ground.
Emily, please. I need you to support me in this. It's just for a little while, and then we can be together openly, he implored, desperation evident in his voice.
But Emily wasn't convinced. Mark, I can't believe you're asking me to do this. It's not fair for either of us. If you can't stand up for our relationship, then maybe we shouldn't be together at all, she declared, the finality in her words echoing through the phone. As Mark hung up, a sinking feeling settled in his chest. He knew he had to face his mother and make good on his promise. He approached her room, hesitating before knocking gently.
Mum, can we talk? He asked, his voice cautious. The door opened, slowly revealing his mother's tear-streaked face. I'm sorry, Mum. I don't want to hurt you. I'll do what you ask. I'll stay away from Emily for a while, Mark admitted, the weight of his decision evident in his eyes. His mother, softened by his compliance, pulled him into a tight hug.
Thank you, my son. I just want what's best for you, she whispered, a mixture of relief and sorrow in her voice. Mark, torn between two worlds, nodded silently, wondering how he had found himself in such a complex web of emotions. Mark distanced himself from Emily as promised. The strain on their relationship was palpable, with each passing day only intensifying Emily's frustration. She couldn't comprehend why Mark was letting his family dictate the course of their relationship. In the quiet moments when Mark was alone, he found himself questioning the choices he had made. The once harmonious household was now a battleground of silent glares and unspoken tensions. Mark's father, caught in the middle, attempted to maintain a semblance of peace, but it was clear that the cracks were widening. One evening, as Mark's mother prepared dinner, a heavy silence loomed over the family. Mark, glancing at his father, could see the wariness etched on his face. It was then that Mrs. Anderson spoke, breaking the silence that had become a constant presence in their home.
Mark, dear, I appreciate what you're doing for the family, but I can't bear to see you so unhappy. Maybe it's time we reconsider our stance on this matter, she admitted, her voice filled with a mix of regret and understanding.
Mark, surprised by his mother's change of heart, looked at her with hopeful eyes.
You mean I can be with Emily again? He asked, a spark of excitement in his voice.
His mother nodded, a small smile playing on her lips.
Yes, dear. It's clear that you care for her deeply, and I don't want to stand in the way of your happiness. Just promise me that you'll find a way to make it work without causing more strife in the family, she urged, a mother's love evident in her eyes.
Relief washed over him as he realised that the rift in his family might finally be healing. He rushed to Emily, eager to share the news. As he dialed her number, a mixture of emotions flooded him. Emily, on the other end, picked up with a guarded tone.
Emily, we can be together again. My mum has changed her mind. We just need to figure out how to make it work, Mark exclaimed, a sense of triumph in his voice.
Emily, however, remained sceptical. Mark, I appreciate that your mum had a change of heart, but I can't forget the pain of these past weeks. It's not that simple for me, she confessed, her voice tinged with lingering hurt. Then a voice came from behind. It was Mark's mother, who asked Mark to give her the phone because she wanted to talk to Emily. Then he gave her the phone. Mrs. Anderson, with a twinkle in her eye, said,
Emily, dear, we're hosting a small gathering on the 2nd of October, and I'd love for you to join us. I want the whole family to meet you, she said warmly.
Emily, delighted by the invitation, agreed without hesitation. I'd be happy to come. What time should I be there? She inquired.
Mark's mother replied, Come around 7 p.m. It'll be a casual get-together.
Then the call ended. Mark was happy that his mother agreed to their relationship. Then they had a happy dinner. Their dining table was full of laughs and contentment. Here, Emily immediately called her parents to tell them about this good news. After the call, she went into a deep thought about why Mark's mother suddenly said yes to their relationship. The days leading up to the 2nd of October were filled with a sense of anticipation and excitement at Mark's house. Emily, having received an unexpected invitation from Mrs. Anderson for a small party, couldn't help but feel a mixture of joy and curiosity. The prospect of meeting Mark's entire family was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. In the days that followed, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of happiness. She even called her parents to share the good news, telling them that Mark's parents were finally open to the idea of their marriage. Little did she know, a surprise awaited her on the day of the event. As the day arrived, Emily found herself contemplating what to wear. Just as she was immersed in thought, Mrs. Anderson called her.
Emily, I forgot to mention the dress code. We're keeping it fun and casual. Wear something funny, okay? She instructed.
Emily, intrigued by the unusual dress code, agreed. She decided on a cartoon-printed dress paired with a playful jacket and comfortable shoes. The clock struck 7 p.m. and Emily, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness, arrived at Mark's house. Mark, ever the gentleman, accompanied her everywhere. However, his mother had other plans.
Mark, dear, go tend to the other guests. I'll take Emily around her and introduce her, she said, ushering Emily away.
As Emily walked through the gathering with Mark's mother, she couldn't help but notice the extravagant attire worn by the other guests. The ladies donned luxurious dresses and adorned themselves with expensive jewellery, creating a stark contrast to Emily's whimsical ensemble. Unbeknownst to Emily, Mrs. Anderson had orchestrated this stark difference deliberately. While Mark was busy mingling with other guests, Emily found herself at the centre of attention. Whispers and stifled laughter followed her as she moved through the room. A group of ladies sipping on their drinks exchanged sly glances and subtle remarks about Emily's choice of outfit.
Did you see what she is wearing? It's like she's attending a children's party, one lady remarked, a condescending smirk on her face.
Another chimed in, well, I suppose not everyone understands the difference between casual and downright ridiculous. Emily, sensing the judgment around her, tried her best to remain composed. She greeted the guest with a smile, unaware of the subtle jabs being thrown her way. Mark's mother, observing from a distance, couldn't help but revel in her little scheme. As the evening progressed, the whispers turned into overt actions. Some ladies subtly moved away when Emily approached, making it clear that she didn't belong to their social circle. The casual and fun atmosphere that was promised turned into an uncomfortable ordeal for Emily. Mark, sensing the tension in the room, excused himself from the group he was with and approached Emily.
"Are you okay?" he asked.
Concern etched across his face. Emily, trying to maintain her composure, nodded and whispered, "I didn't expect this. Your mother set me up." Mark, realising the situation, felt a mix of anger and regret.
"I had no idea she would do something like this. I'm sorry, Emily."
He apologised sincerely. Emily, feeling exposed and vulnerable, decided it was best to leave. I think I've had enough for tonight. I appreciate the invitation, but I can't stay in a place where I'm made to feel like an outsider," Emily confessed, her voice carrying a hint of sadness. Mark, torn between his loyalty to his family and his love for Emily, watched helplessly as she made her exit. As Emily left the party, the echoes of laughter and judgment lingered in her mind. The whimsical dress, chosen with innocence, had become a symbol of mockery. The ladies at the party, blinded by their prejudices, failed to see the genuine person behind the unconventional attire. In the days that followed, Mark grappled with the aftermath of the ill-fated party. The divide between his family and Emily seemed unsurmountable. Emily, hurt by the deliberate humiliation, questioned the sincerity of their relationship. Mark, caught in the crossfire, faced a difficult choice: to stand by the woman he loved, or to succumb to the pressures of his family's expectations. Emily juggled her studies and part-time job, while Mark delved into the demands of his career. The days flew by, and their moments together became increasingly scarce. Yet, in the back of their minds, loomed the impending plans of Mrs. Anderson, casting a shadow over their relationship. One day, Emily, engrossed in her work, received a call from Mark's mother. The invitation to a party with her friends sent a shiver down Emily's spine. Despite the reservations, she hesitantly agreed to accompany Mark's mother, deciding to meet near her friend's house before heading to the party. Curiosity mixed with a tinge of apprehension, she answered the call.
"Hello, Emily. How are you, dear?" Mark's mother's cheerful voice greeted her.
"Hello, Mrs. Anderson. I'm good, thank you. How about you?" Emily replied, trying to sound equally cheerful.
"Oh, I'm doing well, dear. Listen, my friend is throwing a small house party this evening and I'd love for you to join us. It'll be a casual get-together with some friends and neighbours. What do you think?" Mrs. Anderson extended the invitation.
Emily hesitated for a moment, the plans and ideas that loomed in her mind resurfacing. Despite her reservations, she couldn't bring herself to decline outright. Sure, Mrs. Anderson. That sounds nice. What time should I come?"
"Oh, wonderful. It starts at 7 p.m. Just come to our place and we'll head there together. I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting everyone," Mrs. Anderson enthusiastically explained.
"All right, sounds good. I'll be there at 7, Emily agreed, the unease still lingering in her voice.
"Perfect. Looking forward to seeing you, dear, and don't worry, it's going to be a fun evening," Mark's mother reassured her before bidding goodbye. As Emily hung up the phone, a mix of emotions swelled within her. The fear of the unknown and the pressure to conform to the expectations of Mark's mother weighed heavily on her mind. She couldn't help but wonder how the dynamics of the party would unfold and what kind of conversations would transpire. After hanging up, Emily dialed Mark, recounting the unexpected turn of events. "Just be careful, and if anything feels off, let me know. Don't let your emotions get the best of you,"
Mark cautioned, concern evident in his voice. Later that evening, Emily arrived at the designated spot where Mrs. Anderson had waited. They made their way to the party, filled with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. As they entered, the room buzzed with laughter and animated conversations among the ladies. Emily found herself surrounded by a sea of unfamiliar faces, trying her best to blend in. Mrs. Anderson proudly introduced Emily to her friends, each one eager to know more about the woman who captured her son's heart. Despite the initial awkwardness, the ladies were welcoming and the conversation flowed easily. During the party, Emily found herself engaged in various discussions, from recipes to the latest neighbourhood gossip. Surprisingly, the evening unfolded without any of the feared confrontations or uncomfortable situations. The ladies, it seemed, were more interested in the camaraderie than prying into personal matters. Amidst the laughter and chatter, Emily began to relax. She even found herself enjoying the company of Mark's mother and her friends. As the night progressed, she realised that sometimes assumptions and fears could be far more daunting than reality. After the party, Emily and Mrs. Anderson left together, the atmosphere lighter than before. In the car, Mark's mother expressed her gratitude, appreciating Emily's presence at the gathering. As they drove home, Emily couldn't help but reflect on the unexpected turn of events. Perhaps, beneath the surface, there was more understanding and acceptance than she had anticipated. When she finally arrived home, Mark was waiting anxiously.
"How did it go?"
he asked, concern etched on his face. Surprised by her response, Emily smiled and replied, "It went better than we thought. Sometimes it's the unknown that scares us the most." Mark embraced her, relieved and grateful that their fears hadn't materialised. Little did they know this experience would become a turning point in their relationship, teaching them the importance of confronting fears and challenging preconceived notions. But the reason Mark's mother didn't do anything is because she wanted to see Emily's fear. She wanted her to know that whatever happens, any time, and Emily can fall into any trap prepared by her. Emily understood why nothing happened at the party just by looking at Mrs. Anderson's eyes and sly smile. She understood all this was going to happen if she entered their family, because Mrs. Anderson hadn't accepted her yet. She did it because of her son, and Mark's mother also knew if she opposed very much her son might think she was a bad mother. She decided to take them away in a different manner by taking Emily under control and playing with her like a prey and predator. After hanging up, Emily dialed Mark, recounting the unexpected turn of events. "Just be careful, and if anything feels off, let me know. Don't let your emotions get the best of you," Mark cautioned, concern evident in his voice. Emily couldn't shake off the feeling of unease after learning about Mrs. Anderson's plan. Determined not to be swayed, she decided to stay strong and fight back, keeping her concerns hidden from Mark to shield him from unnecessary worry. Everything seemed to be going well. The couple continued their routine of studies, work, and occasional moments together. Emily, however, couldn't ignore the lingering uncertainty about Mark's mother's intentions. Mark had been eagerly awaiting this day. As the clock ticked away at the work, he meticulously planned every detail of the evening he was about to spend with Emily. After hours of anticipation, he finally shut down his computer and made his way to Emily's workplace. "Hey, Emily, ready for our evening plans?" Mark grinned, his excitement contagious. "Absolutely, I've been looking forward to this all day," Emily replied with a smile, grabbing her coat and joining Mark as they left the office. As they walked towards Mark's car, Emily couldn't help but ask, "So what's the plan for tonight?" Mark opened the car door for her, replying, "Well, I think we could start with dinner at the new Italian place downtown. What do you think?" "Sounds perfect. I love Italian," Emily exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. The ride was filled with laughter and casual conversation, setting the tone for a delightful evening. They reached the restaurant, enjoying a delicious meal, and then headed back to Mark's place. Once they arrived, Mark turned to Emily. "I hope you had a good time so far." "Absolutely. Thanks for planning this," Emily said, giving him a warm smile. Back at Mark's place, they freshened up before settling down for a cosy dinner at home. "This pasta is amazing, Mark. Did you cook it?" Emily asked between bites.
Mark chuckled. "I wish I could take credit, but no. It's from that little Italian place I did. However, pick out the best ones on the menu."
After dinner, they found themselves in the living room, enjoying each other's company. As the evening progressed, Mark suggested,
"How about we catch a movie or binge watch a series?"
"Sure, sounds great. I'm up for anything," Emily replied, making herself comfortable on the couch. As he saw Emily engrossed in the movie, he excused himself and went upstairs. His heart pounded as he rummaged through a small velvet box hidden in his jacket. After a few minutes, he emerged with a burst of energy, holding a single red balloon. The room fell silent as Mark confidently burst the balloon, capturing Emily's attention. The sudden pop echoed through the room, and curiously Emily turned towards Mark.
"Emily?"
Mark called out, his voice filled with emotion. Emily approached him with concern. "Is everything all right, Mark? Why did you burst the balloon?" Mark dropped to one knee, his eyes locked into Emily's.
"Emily, ever since I met you, my life has been brighter. My heart has been fuller. Will you make me the happiest person alive and marry me?"
He opened the small box to reveal a sparkling ring. Emily's eyes welled up with tears as she looked at Mark. "Yes, Mark, 1,000 times yes!" Emily exclaimed, her joy contagious. The night continued with music, laughter and dancing, but the tension lingered in the air. Mark and Emily, blissfully unaware of the undercurrents, revelled in the love and support of those who mattered most. The night, despite its imperfections, marked the beginning of a new chapter for the couple, promising a future filled with love and challenges. A few days later, Emily was attending a college function focused on placement and career opportunities. The seminar was informative, with speakers sharing insights and advice on career paths and job opportunities. Amid the event, her phone buzzed with an incoming call from Mark's mother. Surprised, she excused herself and answered the call. "I'll talk to you later, Mrs. Anderson. I'm in the middle of something important," Emily explained. Mark's mother, however, insisted, "It's urgent! Please, after your seminar, come home. I've something to discuss with everyone." Perplexed but intrigued, Emily agreed reluctantly. "Okay, I'll be there after the seminar." After the call, Emily returned to the seminar, her mind filled with questions about the unexpected request. As the seminar concluded around 5 p.m, she left the hall, hailed a taxi, and made her way to Mark's home. Upon arrival, she found everyone gathered in the living room, Mark's parents engrossed in a serious discussion. Mark approached her with a serious expression, and before she could ask, he informed her, "Mum is recommending we have an engagement party." Emily felt a jolt of shock at the sudden revelation. "But why?" she stammered. Mark's mother, rising from her seat, dismissed the need to elaborate preparations. "No need for grand arrangements. We'll keep it at our house, invite a select few, and keep it small but intimate," she declared with a peculiar expression. Attempting to process the situation, Emily questioned, "But why the sudden decision, and without discussing it with us?" Mrs. Anderson, maintaining her serious demeanour, explained, "Sometimes it's better to seize the moment. This party will be a beautiful start to a new chapter in your life, and Emily, you should call your parents. We haven't had the chance to meet them yet. It's an excellent opportunity for everyone to come together and celebrate." Feeling a sense of urgency and confusion, Emily called her mother and handed the phone to Mark's mother. She overheard the conversation, her mother expressing surprise at the sudden plan but agreeing to come a couple of days before for some family time. After the call, Emily couldn't shake off the feeling that Mrs. Anderson had an ulterior motive behind the rushed event. As she observed the serious expressions around her, she wondered if this was a move to showcase wealth, win over her parents, or perhaps force a decision that would favour Mark's mother's grand plan. In the following days, preparations for the party began, and Emily found herself caught in a galloping of emotions. Mark, sensing her unease, tried to reassure her. "Maybe my mum just wants to celebrate our relationship. Let's not overthink it," he suggested. As the day of the event drew closer, Emily couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. The small, intimate gathering soon turned into a grand affair with extravagant decorations and an air of opulence that seemed out of place. 2 days before the event, Emily's parents arrived at Mark's house, greeted warmly by Mark at the door. As they entered, the atmosphere was charged with excitement and anticipation. Emily rushed forward to embrace her parents, a genuine smile lighting up her face. Mark's parents, too, welcomed them with open arms, expressing their delight at having Emily's family join the festivities. After the initial exchanges of pleasantries, Mr. Anderson and Emily's father found themselves engaged in a conversation in the hall. They discussed day-to-day life and hobbies, and soon enough the topic turned to their professions. "So, what do you do for a living?" Mark's father inquired, a casual curiosity in his voice. Emily's father replied, "Nothing much. I own a few small cafes and restaurants." As Mr. Anderson was about to delve into more details, Mark called him in from the other room for assistance, and he excused himself, leaving Emily's father alone with his thoughts. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Mrs. Anderson and Emily's mother engaged in a conversation about recipes and daily life. The inevitable question surfaced, "What do you do for a living?" Emily's mother responded, "Well, not much. I'm a housewife. My husband owns a few cafes and restaurants. That's our primary source of income." Mark's mother, with a polite smile, assumed it was a small cafe and restaurant in the countryside and decided not to delve further. Mrs. Anderson smiled but made her assumptions. Unbeknownst to Emily's mother, Mrs. Anderson was quietly forming opinions, already contemplating how she could manipulate this situation to her advantage. Little did she know, Emily, who had overheard the conversation from the hallway, was beginning to understand the nature of the questions and the unspoken judgments behind them. As the day transitioned into night, the entire household found themselves immersed in party preparations. Mark, his father, and Emily's father were busy with the decorations, while Emily and her mother, alongside Mark's mother, were engaged in the intricate task of gift wrapping. While wrapping gifts, Mrs. Anderson initiated a conversation with Emily's mother.
Are you comfortable here? Do you need anything else? Emily's mother smiled warmly. No, thank you. Your house is lovely, warm, and quite spacious. I appreciate your hospitality. Mrs. Anderson, maintaining her polite demeanour, merely responded with a simple thank you. However, in the recesses of her thoughts, she couldn't resist making her judgments. Huge house, she says. Probably hasn't lived in such a big place. What a poor family. Mrs. Anderson silently concluded, building a mental narrative that Emily's family belonged to a lower social class. As the night progressed, the preparations continued. Despite the undercurrent of tension, the trio persevered, working together to create an enchanting setting for the upcoming celebration. The following day, Emily found herself caught between the excitement of the impending celebration and the growing unease about the hidden intentions surrounding the party. Mark, oblivious to the intricacies of his mother's thoughts, remained focused on the joyous occasion ahead. The party began, with guests arriving and the atmosphere charged with festive energy. Amidst the celebrations, Emily couldn't help but notice the scrutinising glances from Mrs. Anderson and the probing questions directed at her parents. The event, which was meant to be an intimate celebration of love, now felt like a spectacle, an event orchestrated to fit a certain narrative. During the party, as everyone gathered for dinner, the tension in the air was palpable. Mark's mother, seemingly content with the success of her plan, wore a satisfied smile. Emily's parents, while appreciative of the festivities, couldn't shake off the feeling of being scrutinised and judged. Emily, unable to contain her concerns any longer, broached the subject with Mark. Mark, something doesn't feel right. This party feels more like a show than a celebration of our love. Mark, still enchanted by the festivities, dismissed her worries. Maybe it's just my mum's way of expressing joy. Let's not ruin the moment with unnecessary doubts. However, as days turned into weeks, Emily's concerns grew for her in-laws, especially for her mother-in-law. The once supportive and loving relationship with Mark's family now felt like a chess game with hidden motives and strategic moves. One day, unable to ignore her apprehensions any longer, Emily decided to confront Mark about the situation. As they sat down to talk, she poured out her concerns, sharing her observations and fears about the direction their relationship was taking. To her surprise, Mark listened attentively, his expression shifting from disbelief to realization. I had no idea you felt this way, he admitted, regret evident in his eyes. Let's talk to my mum together and set some boundaries. Our relationship should be about us, not her plans. With renewed determination, Emily and Mark faced Mark's mother, expressing their desire for independence and their need to shape their future. The confrontation wasn't easy, but as the dust settled, the couple found themselves on a new path, one where their relationship wasn't dictated by external pressures. Mum, I need to talk to you, Mark began, his voice tinged with concern. His mother focused on the housework and looked up, a hint of surprise in her eyes. What is it, dear? Emily doesn't like all the interference you are doing in our relationship, and I can't ignore that. I think you need to stop it. Give her some breathing space, Mark suggested. Instead of a calm response, Mrs. Anderson seized the opportunity to vent to show Emily down. Emily is not happy with this. I'm doing all this for you both. I want you to be happy and be happy with her. Mark, suddenly stern and confused by his mother's reaction, questioned, Mum, why are you reacting like this? She sighed, frustration evident in her tone. See, she's already against me, and you're supporting her in this. I've never seen you like this. You've always listened to me. And now that girl has come in and is making decisions for you and herself. Can't you see she is so selfish? Mark, taken aback by his mother's unexpected outburst, began to understand the underlying issue. Mum, it's our marriage, not yours. Before Emily even said anything to me, I was feeling overwhelmed by your interference in our relationship. His mother, momentarily subdued by Mark's firm stance, softened her tone. What are you feeling, my child? I'm sorry. I am interfering. I will not repeat it again. With that, she left the room, leaving Mark bewildered and contemplative.
Emily's parents, who had been observing the situation from a distance, exchanged knowing glances. They recognised the complexities beneath the surface and realised that while Mark's mother had reservations, Mark and his father were supportive of the relationship. Mark's mother, wrestling with her emotions, walked out of the room and found herself amid curious glances from the rest of the family. Meanwhile, Emily and her parents, having overheard the conversation, felt a mix of relief and concern. It was evident that Mark's mother was struggling with the changes in the dynamics of their family. But at the same time, they were heartened by Mark's decision to prioritise his relationship with Emily. In the quiet aftermath of the confrontation, Mark approached Emily, finding her in the garden, where the tension in the air was still palpable.
"Emily, are you okay?"
he asked with genuine concern. Emily, appreciating Mark's support, sighed. "I'm okay, Mark. Just a bit overwhelmed by everything that's happening." Mark took her hand and reassured her.
"I talked to my mum. Now she won't interfere in our relationship. It's our relationship, and we should decide at our pace, not someone else's."
Emily, touched by Mark's understanding, smiled and said, "Thank you, Mark. It means a lot to me." In the coming days, Mark's mother stopped interfering in her son's relationship. Mark and Emily spent quality time together, reinforcing their bond and re-evaluating their priorities. Mark's father, supportive of their decision, played a crucial role in mediating between his wife and the young couple. Emily's parents, while aware of the earlier tensions, were appreciative of the efforts made to create a positive and inclusive environment. They understood that relationships were complex and acceptance took time. During the break from work, Mark and Emily decided to spend some quiet time together.
"I'm grateful for you, Emily. I want our life to be about us and not anyone's interference," Mark said honestly.
Touched, Emily smiled and replied, "I love you, Mark." Meanwhile, Mark's mum thought about her actions and realised she caused family issues. Wanting to fix things, she decided to talk openly with Mark. One evening, as the sun set over the quiet neighbourhood, Mark's mother approached him.
"Mark, I've been doing some thinking these days. I want you to know that I love you, and all I ever wanted was your happiness. I may have let my fears cloud my judgment. Can we talk?"
Mark, appreciating his mother's willingness to address the issues, nodded.
"Of course, Mum, let's talk."
In their conversation, Mark's mother admitted that she wanted the best for her son, but acknowledged that her approach had been misguided.
"I just want to be a part of your life, Mark, and I'm learning that it's time to let go a bit and let you make your own decisions," she expressed,
a hint of vulnerability in her voice. Mark, grateful for his mother's honesty, responded,
"Mum, I love you too. Emily and I need the space to make our own choices. I hope you can understand that."
As they navigated this heart-to-heart conversation, a sense of understanding started to emerge between mother and son. With a thought, Mark's mother asked him if she could take everyone to a restaurant tomorrow. Her friend recommended. Mark was happy to hear it and said,
"Yes, why not? Let's tell everyone now."
The next day arrived, bringing with it a sense of anticipation and excitement for the lunch gathering at the restaurant. The atmosphere was charged as everyone got ready and piled into the car, ready to enjoy a delightful meal together. Mark took the wheel, and as they approached the restaurant, a prestigious establishment known for its opulence, a sense of wonder filled the air. Upon arrival, Mark parked the car and everyone gazed at the magnificent restaurant. It was clear that this was not just any ordinary dining place, it was one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Mark, concerned about the potential cost, questioned his mother's choice.
"Mum, why this expensive restaurant? It will be a lot."
His mother, with a confident smile, replied,
"Don't worry, Mark, I will pay."
Despite her assurance, Mark couldn't shake off his unease. Emily's father, upon seeing the name of the restaurant, smiled knowingly and said,
"This restaurant," emphasizing the word "this," and got inside.
Mark's mother, puzzled by his reaction, glanced at Emily and her mother. who were also smiling. She couldn't comprehend why they seemed pleased, as if they had just witnessed a poor man stumbling upon a treasure chest. Undeterred, everyone entered the restaurant and took their seats at a well-appointed table. However, before they could settle in, a waiter approached and requested them to move to a private room. Perplexed but obliging, they shifted to a more secluded space. As they settled in, they were treated to complimentary snacks and treats, setting the stage for a wonderful conversation. The lunch proceeded smoothly, with everyone savouring the delicious flavours and engaging in an enjoyable banter. The restaurant's ambiance added to the overall experience, making it a memorable occasion for all. However, as the meal concluded and the waiter presented the bill, an unexpected twist unfolded. Mrs. Anderson reached for her purse, intending to pay with her card, only to find it missing. Panic set in, and she nervously mentioned that her card might be at home or left in a drawer. The realization struck that she had deliberately kept her card behind, intending for Emily's parents to foot the bill. Mark and his father exchanged nervous glances, realizing they hadn't brought any wallets with them. Mark's mother, in an attempt to smooth things over, asked Emily's parents if they could cover the bill temporarily, promising to repay them once they returned home. Mark, caught off guard by his mother's suggestion, objected. "Mum, you invited them, now you're asking them to pay!" Emily, sensing the tension, intervened. "It's fine, Mark. Let's stay calm." Emily's father, trying to defuse the situation, signalled the waiter to call the manager. As the manager arrived, Emily's father calmly explained that he would cover the bill and settle it afterward. The manager, recognising Emily's father, responded, "No, sir, this is your restaurant, sir. How can we take the money from you?" Mark, his mother, and his father exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of what was happening. Emily's father clarified to the manager, "Yes, I know, it's my restaurant, but today I came as a customer, not as an owner, so please add the bill to my account and I'll settle it later." The manager, understanding the situation, agreed and added the bill amount to Emily's father's account. He then processed the payment and the matter was resolved. Mark and his parents were left confused, wondering why Emily's father had claimed ownership of the restaurant. After the manager left, Mark asked, "Why did you say that?" Emily, with a subtle smile, responded, "Didn't my father mention that he owns restaurants?" Mr. Anderson added, "Yes, you did say that." Emily's father, revealing a long-held secret, said, "Yeah, I own this restaurant chain in the entire country. I don't like to tell anyone, so only the staff and my family know about it. Emily also works in my cafe, Bean Harmony. Even her colleagues don't know that she is my daughter." The revelation left Mark, his mother, and his father stunned. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place, explaining Emily's father's reaction earlier, and shedding light onto why Emily and her mother had smiled when they arrived on the restaurants. "Oh, Bean Harmony is your cafe?" Emily's father continued. "Yes, right. I opened it when Emily was born. At first I handled the businesses on site, but then I had hypertension because of work. So the doctor recommended me to take lots of rest, and since then I have handled everything from home." As the truth sank in, Mark's family realised the depth of the misunderstanding. The lunch that began with a surprise had taken an unexpected turn, revealing a secret that had been carefully guarded. As the truth unfolded about Emily's father being the owner of a prestigious cafe and restaurant chain, a wave of shock and disbelief washed over Mark's mother. She struggled to comprehend the sudden revelation, grappling with a mix of emotions: jealousy, confusion, embarrassment. On the car ride back home, Mrs. Anderson sat in stunned silence, the weight of the newfound knowledge sinking in. She couldn't fathom how the seemingly ordinary family she had considered as potential in-laws turned out to be so influential. Her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts, and she couldn't shake off the feeling of inadequacy that started to creep in. "I invited them to an expensive restaurant thinking I was showcasing our family status, and all along, Emily's family owned an entire chain of prestigious cafes and restaurants," she thought, feeling a twinge of embarrassment. As the car pulled into the driveway, Mark's mother took a deep breath, trying to compose herself before facing the reality that had just been unveiled. She entered the house, still processing the shock, and retreated to her room for a moment of solitude. Sitting on her bed, Mrs. Anderson couldn't help but replay the events of the day in her mind. Why didn't Emily or her family ever mention their true status before? Was it intentional? Were they testing us? Her thoughts were clouded with a mix of confusion and jealousy. She pondered the implication of Emily's elevated social standing, imagining the reactions of friends and relatives when they learned about this surprising turn of events. The realization that she had been unaware of such a significant detail intensified the embarrassment she felt. I invited them to that restaurant thinking I was in control, showcasing our financial prowess, and here I am, oblivious to the fact that they could own the place if they wanted to. She mused, a tinge of bitterness in her thoughts. Mrs. Anderson felt a growing discomfort, wondering how she could face Emily's family after this revelation. The jealousy she harboured was not just about their financial status, but about their perceived deception, as if Emily's family had intentionally kept their wealth a secret, allowing Mark's family to make assumptions. As she contemplated the situation, Mark's mother decided that she needed to confront her feelings and address the misconceptions she had held. She acknowledged the need to set aside the insecurities and welcome Emily's family for who they truly were. With newfound determination, Mrs. Anderson emerged from her room, ready to face the reality that had unfolded. She approached Emily's family with a genuine smile, realizing that true happiness lay in embracing the diversity of experiences and backgrounds that each family brought to the table. The lunch revelation became a catalyst for personal growth and understanding within Mark's family. Mrs. Anderson learned that status and wealth did not define the worth of an individual or a family. It was a lesson in humility, teaching her to appreciate the richness that comes from the diversity of people and their unique stories. As the days passed, the initial shock and jealousy transformed into genuine admiration for Emily's family. Mrs. Anderson took the opportunity to build a more open and understanding relationship with them, setting aside preconceived notions and embracing the chance to learn from one another. The journey toward acceptance and mutual respect became a pivotal chapter in the unfolding story of Mark and Emily's relationship. It was a reminder that love transcends social status and that the strength of a family lies in its ability to support and uplift one another, regardless of background or financial standing. In the wake of the revelation about Emily's family's significant status, Mark and Emily's wedding preparations started as planned by Mark and Emily. The unexpected disclosure catalyzed a transformation in relationships, fostering a sense of unity and collaboration between the two families. As the days passed, a shared understanding developed between Mark and Emily's family. They decided to approach the wedding preparation as a joint venture, recognizing the importance of blending their traditions, values, and preferences. Mrs. Anderson, who initially struggled with feelings of inadequacy and jealousy, began to understand the richness that diversity could bring to their shared celebration. The first significant change was in Mark's mother's behaviour towards Emily and her family. She made a conscious effort to set aside preconceived notions and embrace the diversity that was now an integral part of their lives. Mrs. Anderson realised that the depth of a family's worth extended far beyond financial standing or societal status. The venue was carefully selected to represent the blend of elegance and simplicity that characterised the evolving union between Mark and Emily. Together, the families navigated through decisions about decorations, invitations, and the overall theme of the celebration. The once divided families found common ground and mutual respect as they worked towards a shared goal. Mrs. Anderson, learning from the past, welcomed the input and suggestions from Emily's family. The wedding preparations became an opportunity for growth, fostering connections that transcended the initial misunderstandings. The shift in attitude and behaviour was not only noticeable for Mark and Emily, but also to the entire circle of family and friends involved in the wedding. As the wedding day approached, the air buzzed with anticipation. The venue, a picturesque garden, was transformed into a dreamlike setting with flowers, soft lights, and an atmosphere of love and celebration. Mark and Emily, surrounded by their families and close friends, exchanged vows that mirrored their unique journey. A journey marked by understanding, acceptance, and the willingness to grow together. Mark's mother, adorned with a genuine smile, watched the union with a heart full of joy. The wedding ceremony had become a symbol of unity and shared growth, highlighting the importance of embracing differences and finding strength in diversity. The once strained dynamics had given way to a harmonious celebration of love and family. The reception that followed was a lively affair filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt speeches. Emily's father, taking the stage, acknowledged the transformative journey they had all undertaken. He expressed gratitude for the newfound bond that had emerged, thanking everyone for embracing their family with open hearts. The wedding cake, a masterpiece that reflected the merging of two families, was cut amid cheers and applause. Mark's mother, once hesitant about relinquishing control, found joy in witnessing the collaborative efforts of both families. The shared moments of laughter, dance, and celebration marked the beginning of a new chapter for Mark and Emily. As the evening progressed, Mark and Emily found themselves dancing under the stars. The once complicated dynamics had paved the way for a deeper connection, and the love that radiated between the newlyweds was palpable. The support of their families, now united in a shared journey, added an extra layer of joy to the occasion. Mark and Emily, surrounded by the warmth and love of their families, embarked on a journey together. Mrs. Anderson, having learnt the importance of humility and acceptance, became an integral part of their lives, fostering a loving and inclusive family environment. This ends with the image of Mark and Emily building a life together, grounded in love, understanding, and the valuable lessons learned from the twists and turns of their unique journey. The once complicated dynamics had transformed into a tapestry of shared experiences, creating a foundation for a happily ever after that extended beyond the wedding day.